I renounce my wish of Wonder Woman coming out on Christmas Day.
Think about finally having everything you always wanted.
I can save today, but you can save the world. Steve. Diana.
For those living under a rock, Wonder Woman, directed by Patty Jenkins and starring Gal Gadot, was one of the highest-grossing superhero movies of all time in 2017. And this is the highly anticipated sequel where What If Wonder Woman was in the 80s? She's in the 80s now. And she's hanging out with Kristen Wiig, who's totally not Catwoman. She's hanging out with Pedro Pascal. Boy, isn't he in a lot of stuff. And Chris Pine's back. Everyone's excited Chris Pine's back. And I really wish I liked this movie. I really wanted to like Wonder Woman 1984. I was trying to figure out how long I should go before I say whether or not I like it. Should I really go into the storyline? And it's hard to really go into the storyline and everything without just like spoiling the movie. So I'm not going to do spoilers, but I am going to go into some plot details. So just be warned, I am going to talk about what I did and didn't like about Wonder Woman, which obviously I wasn't that big of a fan of because I'm giving you this preface. Wonder Woman 1984, a sequel to the 2017 movie Diana Prince. Wonder Woman is hiding out in Washington, D.C. as a museum curator who's secretly Wonder Woman because no one can know Wonder Woman exists, because when Batman vs. Superman and Justice League came out, no one knew who Wonder Woman was, and it was a secret since World War I. That's my first complaint right off the bat. I know that it's not your fault, it's not Patty Jenkins' fault, but that's just a problem with the DC films, that they handcuff themselves by having all these characters get thrown into Batman vs. Superman and having them thrown into Justice League without being established in any way, shape, or form. So a lot of these characters are kind of just having to be rewritten on the fly, which I'm not really a big fan of, but I can kind of let that go. I also get that Chris Pine was the big standout of the first movie next to Gal Gadot. We lost him in the first one. You want to figure out a way to bring him back. But you also want new villains. So you want to bring in somebody like Maxwell Lord, who's a popular villain. You can bring in an actor like Pedro Pascal, who's a fantastic actor. He's great in a lot of different films. But Maxwell Lord isn't the kind of character that can fight Wonder Woman. Instead, the studio thought, Cheetah. Everybody likes Cheetah. Cheetah's arguably Wonder Woman's biggest adversary, one of her biggest rivals. I have read Cheetah in the comics from the New 52, and I always liked Cheetah. She's in the Injustice games. I don't think that the studio or the writers knew that much about Cheetah, because Kristen Wiig's kind of just playing Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns. She's just doing her best Selena Kyle Catwoman impression. Those characters are really not supposed to be that similar. Even if she did that, that's not the end of the world if Kristen Wiig's doing her own version of the Selena Kyle character, where she's just, oh, I'm a loser, I have no friends, something's happening to me, now I'm a cat, That would be all well and good if she was given anything to do. There's like 20, 30 minutes at a time, you completely forget she's even in the movie. And that's my biggest problem. The length. This is a 2.5-hour film on HBO Max. I didn't even get into that. It's on HBO Max and in theaters. You can go see this in theaters, or you can watch it in the comfort of your own home. I recommend, if you want to watch it, watch on HBO Max. Don't go to the theaters for this. Don't go to the theaters for Wonder Woman 1984. So it's 2.5 hours, which is fine on HBO Max. In theaters, it would just be too much of a slog. I love long movies. I'm a big fan of long movies. This movie could be 45 minutes shorter. Wonder Woman 1984 kind of feels like a TV series. I get they were trying to emulate the Wonder Woman TV show, but you kind of put too much into it and it just becomes like this jumbled mess. I didn't even really get into Pedro Pascal. I love Pedro Pascal. I think he gives a great performance. He is acting his ass off as Maxwell Lord, and I like part of Maxwell Lord. I feel like that character you only really scratch the surface with. I think he's a very interesting, layered, intricate character, and you barely get into his backstory. You barely get into his character development. Most of the stuff you see him do, at best, is just like okay and kind of confusing. His whole villain arc and his character is a very interesting character, and I don't think they did it justice. Pedro Pascal did great, but I don't think he was given very much to work with. It feels like it should be a 6-episode series, kind of like what they're doing with Disney Plus with the Marvel shows. If Wonder Woman 1984 was 6 hours long and 6-hour-long episodes, I think they could have fleshed this out way more, and they really could have gone into detail on the whole story and what they were trying to do. The action set pieces in this movie, I really wasn't that big of a fan of. I thought they did a really bad job when it came to the fight choreography, the cinematography, the special effects, the lighting. I really wasn't a big fan of it. The film starts with this big 25-minute action scene, and it's 2 separate action scenes. They kind of just felt disjointed. They didn't really feel like they worked together, and one's a flashback that, in my opinion, didn't need to be in the movie at all, because to me, it didn't really add anything to the movie. I know some people are a big fan of the opening scene. I really was not one of them. It immediately took me out of the movie. It immediately separated me from the film, and I never really connected again. And I tried, and there are some sequences that I like, but most of it kind of just fell flat to me. I have tried to rewatch it because with HBO Max you can rewatch movies, and that's a cool aspect of this, that you can go back to it, or you can watch it in parts, and I recommend watching this in parts. It feels more like an episodic TV series jumbled together. This is going to be a weird stretch. The Entourage movie. I was a fan of the Entourage TV series. I was a big fan. The Entourage movie feels like 3 or 4 episodes of the show kind of just condensed together, and that's one of the biggest negatives I could give that movie. The Wonder Woman 1984 feels like 3 episodes of a Wonder Woman series that doesn't exist, kind of shoved in together to make this 2.5-hour long movie, and none of it really gelled together for me. The Cheetah stuff, the Maxwell Lord scenes, the whole Chris Pine Wonder Woman back together, none of that really worked or coalesced the way that I think it should have. Chris Pine is great returning, and it's cool seeing the fish out of water thing, but they did that in the last movie. And yeah, I get that it's the reverse now, because now it's Steve Trevor being like, oh wow, what a new world. I didn't want to see that. To me, this just felt like a movie where the studio wanted to have these characters in it. They didn't really know how, and they tried as hard as they could to mesh all these characters into one movie. The final fight scene between Cheetah and Wonder Woman, I think, really fails. It's very dark. It's badly lit. You don't get really that great of a look at Cheetah. I think it was a waste. You could take it out of the movie. You could remove Kristen Wiig entirely from the movie, and it changes very little. It really doesn't do that much of a difference. The secondary final fight is way too long, in my opinion. The speech that Wonder Woman gives at the end is good. It's a very good speech, but you didn't need it. You didn't need a lot of that stuff at the end, and I think it just goes on too long. It's just too long. That's the best way I can put it. And I'm not going to go too long in this video. I would give this film a 5 out of 10. There's parts of it that I did like. Overall, I didn't like about half the movie, so I'm going to give it about a 5. All right, guys, please make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell icon if you want alerts for new videos every week, and we'll see you next time for another one.